Okay, I'm going to start off with my normal introduction. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Cosmic Starseed Academy. These are the new Friday groups where we dive deeper into more current situations. And the time is 7:12 p.m. here in Ireland, and it is the 6th of March, 2026. I am Soma Ara. You can find me on somaara.love and also the Cosmic Starseed Academy. I am available for readings. I don't think I'm going to be sharing this, but I'm just kind of doing the usual introduction. So, this evening we're doing all about Jeffrey Epstein and some of his crowd. And I want to add that I am a Pleiadian channel since childhood, which is kind of unusual because most channelists start off in adulthood. But I started off as a child due to trauma, and which caused me to leave my body and connect to the Pleiadians and my starseed family that goes back into past lives, which I discovered as an adult. I wasn't aware of that as a child. And I'm also a psychic medium and offer readings and many other things. And also, I've created the Cosmic Starseed Academy, which you can join for free or as a paid member. And of course, the membership comes with different tiers and different benefits. So let's make a start. So this evening, we're on the subject of Jeffrey Epstein. We're joined by Jennifer. Jennifer, because you have your little one, I would like to start off, most especially because you have your little one, I would like to start off with a protective meditation. Um, so when you're ready, close your eyes and visualize your little one and yourself in a bubble of white golden light. And you can do that too for everyone in the house or anyone that you feel would need it. So a bubble of white light or golden or pink or a mix or a blend or a bleed of those colors. Just fully surrounding all of you individually. From the top of your head to your feet, from your left to your right or right to left, and front and back or back and front. But so that you're completely encased, completely surrounded by a bubble of white light, beautiful, shimmering, protective. You have a shield and a sword, and so does everyone else for protection. You are protected, fully protected in love and light, and very much guided by your guides, as is everyone else. You can close your eyes for that if you want to. Feet on the floor, get comfortable, back straight as possible, as comfortably possible, especially if you have a bad back. we are the Pleiadians. We are Ashtar, Commander-in-Chief. We are the Pleiadian Collective. And we use this one, Soma Ara, as a Pleiadian ambassador, a galactic cosmic being of light, of heart frequency, of love. As so many of you are, even when you are unaware, that is what you are. You are beings of light, on your planet now to bring great change and shift to humanity, to bring great, thank you, to bring great change and shift to humanity. We come to serve, we come to assist, we come to enlighten, we come to lift you up, we come to raise your frequency, your vibration, your energy. We come to assist in your ascension process because it is also our ascension process. There is nothing in your universe, or the universe, rather, we should say. Please excuse Soma for the wrong choice of words. We are here to assist in the great awakening of humanity, which is not limited to humanity. We will be dipping in and out of a channeling this evening, whether she has her eyes open or closed, as she has been, as we said just now, as she said just now, been doing this for so long as a child. She's now got to the stage where she can open her eyes during a channeling and is able to do that. There is another one who is called Blossom Goodchild that is also able to channel with her eyes open, and not many are able to do this or that. Oh, let us go back to the beginning, or a beginning, where Atlantis and the downfall of Atlantis is extremely relevant to the being that you know and call Jeffrey Epstein. There is a very direct connection. The downfall of Atlantis was a period in your time, a period in your history where you were invaded by negative ET race. Let us say that again. You were invaded by a negative ET race of beings who were looking for a new home because theirs had been devastated to the point they had to leave. They had no choice in the matter. It was either leave or become extinct. So they chose to leave, which would have been a choice that most would have made. Thank you. They eventually found a planet called Earth with human beings. We say human beings, we really mean an advanced race of humanity at the time of Atlantis. We want to talk some about this group of beings who continue to run your planet today. Soma would simply call these reptilian, but there are many different names for them. Some are wrongly diagnosed. Diagnosed is the wrong word, but labeled is a better word. Thank you. All of your governments, all of your systems that you have in place on Earth were put into place by this group of negative ET race or species who deliberately created the downfall of Atlantis because they wanted to rule your planet. They wanted to rule humanity, and they did. This is a very long plan that they put into place. It was not an overnight achievement or success, or it was not an overnight situation that they would have been able to put into place. This has taken a long time of time. And now you are where you are within the grand scheme of things, within humanity, within your planet, where things are moving back into alignment, much like a coil that has been stretched to the point of, or let us use the example of a rubber band, a rubber band that has been pulled to its maximum capacity. Thank you. Its maximum capacity. Or a coil that has been pulled to its maximum capacity. The relevance we often use this explanation, and we use the coil because it is easily explains the DNA, the spiral, the coil. But this coil has been stretched to its maximum capacity and is now on the brink of going back to its original blueprint, its original DNA, which affects humans, and also the planet is going back to her original axis. So everything is just about to go back to its original settings, whether it is humanity's DNA or the Earth going back to her original axis point. The way that shows up and affects humans is that humans are rising in frequency and the Earth is going through shifts in her frequency, which do affect the weather naturally. However, the majority, thank you. However, the majority of the weather is manipulated. So that is also an aspect to consider. These group of reptilian beings that invaded your planet to create the downfall of Atlantis have had a very long time to create and put into place very negative situations to distract you. There were bloodlines of these. We don't want to use the word creatures, but there were bloodlines of these negative ET species. There were what we would call 13 original families, which is different to the 13 original tribes. But it is interesting connection. There were 13 original tribes, which were humans spreading out on your planet, which were positive beings. And one of those groups was the Native Americans. However, the 13 families that they're often called is a very different thing altogether. These reptilians or these 13 families We will go back to the 13, sorry, we will go, thank you. We will go back to the reptilians and the negative beings before the 13 families were instilled into your planet. All systems on Earth were created by these negative alien reptilian beings. Put into place and created in order to control humanity, in order to keep you in line, in order to keep you as slave race. These systems were created. All systems on Earth are still governed by these reptilian beings at the very top of the pyramid. Many people, most of these people within these systems are completely unaware of what is going at the top, what is going on at the top of these systems. However, the ones at the very top are well aware of what is really going on a bigger picture or within their worlds. And all of these systems are connected, are in direct communication, are working against humanity in order to keep control and ownership of humanity and your planet and its resources. They do not want to leave. However, many have already left. Sometime after these systems were created, there were 13 families that were put into, or 12 families, or 11 families, or 10 families. There was a large group of families that were, thank you, put into place, onto your planet in order to govern from the top down. Bloodlines, royalty was changed. We've spoken of this before, where the real royal families were replaced by a negative reptilian bloodline. This was done somewhere in the 14th century, either just before or just after. Unlikely just after, more before if it was not exactly in the 14th century. These bloodlines had many offspring and spread throughout your planet like a disease. They are satanic. They are Illuminati. They are Cabal. They have many of those words and other words that to describe them. They work behind the scenes. They work underground. Very physically, they work underground. They are satanic. They are part of your churches, part of your religion, part of your governments, part of your institutions, part of your schools, part of your hospitals, all systems, your school system, your education, your academia, your universities. There is a huge tunnel system that lays beneath your planet, lays beneath your earth, that have been used for different reasons, that are in different form and shape, meaning some are tunnels, some are caverns, some are caves, some are cities, some have different levels, some have one level. There is a tunnel that stretches from the west coast of Ireland directly to America, or what you would call the United States of America, that is walkable. These negative beings are involved in many evil, ancient, sacred practices. We use the word sacred because it is sacred to them. We want to add at this point that they have a maximum of 3% of the love frequency that you contain. When we say you, we are talking of the normal human being. There are many different human beings on your planet with different DNA, with different blood, that come from different places. Let us take one group of the starseeds that originated elsewhere. Sometimes it is noticeable that they carry a different blood, a different DNA, such as rhesus negative, which we often speak of. Many starseeds will have this blood type, which is a direct link or stamp, signature of ours. We want to share this evening how dark these negative reptilian beings are. They are Luciferian. They are satanic. They are bloodthirsty. They are sacrificial. They have a maximum of 3% of the love frequency that you carry as normal human beings. The starseeds have an even more stronger frequency of love within their systems, within their frequency, within their energy. As starseeds, you are not normal human beings. You carry a higher frequency, a higher energy, a higher vibration, a higher awareness, a higher intuition, a higher psychic, a higher sense of knowing, a higher sense of abilities, a higher sense of learning, a higher sense of understanding. As starseeds, you are not normal. You are extraterrestrial in nature, meaning that you've had past lives on other star systems such as ours or Sirian or some other of our brothers and sisters. So there are different human beings living on your planet right now. These reptilian beings created many of the, not all of, but a vast majority of underground tunnels. There are spaces underground your Earth that were created by a much more positive type of, we use the word human being. For example, in Atlantis, there were hideaways that were built beneath your Earth in order to hide some of the galactic wars that were very visible at that time. This has not only occurred in Atlantis, this has occurred in other sacred time periods. such as Lemuria, which now exists beneath Mount Shasta. Many of these areas that were created by positive, loving human ETs were used to hide in order to not become extinct, like the giants mostly have. They were places to dwell, places to live, places to created for safety, for human ET or humanity. There are many descendants of these reptilian beings. And Jeffrey Epstein is but one. We will pause there. We say we. Selma finds that funny. She finds it funny that we are going to pause the recording. And we say we include Soma. We want to add, before we do pause, for a few moments to allow for refreshments for this body, this vessel, this being that you call Soma Ara. Before we do that, we want to add that Jesus or Yeshua, whatever name you choose to call him, is one of us. He was a being that was sent to your planet to raise the frequency of the planet in preparation for now, the time you are living now. And the return of Christ consciousness is on your planet, is upon your planet. You are in it. It is not a return of the being himself necessarily in a physical body, although he is with us and assisting us in your ascension. He was what you call a hybrid, which is what all starseeds are. The ascension process the return of Christ consciousness is inevitable. The changing of the guard. There is a vast area beneath the castle in London, the Royal Palace. In front of this area, beneath the ground, there are vast tunnels where children are trafficked. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We were taking a short coffee break there, a much needed coffee break after that channeling. I always get very, very sad when they channel about the area beneath Hyde Park, which is where the palace is in London, the Royal Palace. Um, I always get very emotional when they talk about that because I see the image of it so clearly in my mind's eye. And I have no doubt in my mind. And one of the reasons it makes me sad is because I know that there's nothing I can really do with that information except share it on here. I can't go to the police about it. I can't go to anyone official about it. So what I can really do is just keep sharing it here. But it does, that information always fills me with a sadness and I don't know what the word is, but an inability to actually make any um, progress with that area beneath the royal palace. So anyway, moving on. Um, they wanted to give a kind of a good background of who Epstein is on a higher level, a higher perspective, um, which goes back all the way to Atlantis and the downfall of Atlantis. And then I knew when they kind of stopped the channeling, because they're still here, that um, I would open my eyes when they kind of finished that channeling section of the higher levels of what was occurring on the planet at the downfall of Atlantis, which is connected to Epstein and his crowd, his crew, his minions, his bloodline, and the people that he works with, because he was not working alone. It goes right back to families and reptilians and negative bloodlines and the cabal, the Illuminati. So he was not working alone. And I do believe that he was part of the three-letter agency that is rumored. I don't even want to say the words because, um, yeah, um, he was part of a group of people that set up an institution or an organization or an agency, where he was employed by them and part of them, which is a very negative institution or organization, which does a lot of secret, um, I don't know what you would call them, secret agendas, secret experiments, and the military have been involved for a long time in the United States of America within all of that. And of course, the negative bloodlines. So that is some of the background on a higher level of what has gone on. And Jeffrey Epstein was not working alone. And I believe he's still alive and well, probably living somewhere deep underground for a while. And I believe he's still underground, um, with his partner, Giselle Maxwell. I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly, um, but I am dyslexic, so do forgive me because I always read it as Giselle. I don't believe that she is in prison. I believe they are living together underground somewhere or on an island somewhere, maybe even off planet somewhere. But I do not believe for a second that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. I even saw a video today where he made a phone call 2 days before he died. And this phone call was given to him. It was a phone that was not recorded. Whereas I was reading most of the inmates, their phone calls are recorded. He was allowed to make a phone call that was unrecorded. They don't know who he called. And then it was reported that he called um, his girlfriend, who the name wasn't Giselle Maxwell, although I do believe Giselle and himself were in a sexual relationship. But they named his girlfriend as being someone else. Um, so let's pause there. I'd like to give Jennifer time to ask any questions.
I'm still absorbing it all. But I'm just curious then if they've infiltrated everything, are there actually then some human beings out there that are just terrible people that are knowingly working with people that they know are reptilians just for their own gain? Like there are some humans kind of in cahoots with them. Is that kind of what's happening here at some point in this?
Yes, absolutely. There are. There are. Most definitely. There are people. Let's take Hollywood because that's a really good example of people that have sold their souls to the devil, to satanic cults, which is part of the Illuminati or Cabal or the negative agenda, or it goes right back to the negative reptilian alien beings. Um, there are people in Hollywood that have sold their souls to the devil in exchange for fame, for all of that money, success. Let's take Lady Gaga as a good example, and or Katy Perry as a good example. I think that, or the other one, Beyonce. There are there are others that have during interviews. I don't know the name of her, but she at the time of the interview she was quite a young black girl. I'd say maybe 20 or 30 at the most, and she was American. I don't know her name and I don't know her music, but I saw an interview of her where she was explaining in the interview that she had sold her soul to the devil in exchange for all the fame and money and success. So, and the CIA is very, very deeply enthroned in Hollywood. Um, and all of those systems on Earth that we have are all connected. They're not separate. They're not separate at all. There's no way they could be. The reptilians are not silly. They're not stupid people. I use the word people very loosely. They're not stupid beings. They're very satanic, very clever, not evolved spiritually at all. They've only 3% maximum love frequency, which is something I had an experience a couple of years ago, I think it was 2020, where for about 3 or 4 days I was taken into a very dark space. I was taken almost I was taken into a different dimension, which was very dark. And I was having very out of body experiences where I was seeing very physically, seeing Bill Gates and his crew, his team, people around him, some very well known, and I was being shown information. So it was almost like being in a channeling, but I was physically awake. And it continued for about 3, 4 days, 4 days, I'd say, where I was taken into this very dark space and I was out of my body for those couple of days. And I was being shown information and I was being shown that um, specifically Bill Gates, I remember him very clearly, where I was shown that they only have 3% of the frequency of love, which is um, normal humans have more than that. We, you and me, and many other starseeds are operating at a much higher frequency, which is why one of the reasons why we're here, because we're here to assist ascension, the evolution of our planet, of this planet, of Mother Earth. We are not from here. We are not from here. We have hundreds of lifetimes on other planets and star systems. We are different, Jennifer. We're different. Our DNA is different. Our memories, our abilities, our perception. We know what's going on. Even as children, we know what's going on. We're not always, it's not conscious with us as children. We're not consciously aware, but we know, but we do know that something is wrong, something is different, something is going on here that is unusual, that doesn't feel good, that often labels us the naughty child or the black sheep of the family, and often we're born into families that are very dysfunctional, with a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, addiction, blah, 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 blah. Um, I'm kind of veering off your question. Um, so let me pause there and ask, did 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 I answer your question fully enough?
Yes, you did. That was really great. It was a lot of good information. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm I'm so glad you're here. And I'm looking for, and I'm so keen to get you information. Like, do you have other questions?
I'm just out of curiosity. Um, do they think, like, are they at all concerned about more people waking up, the rise of consciousness, or are they kind of cocky and thinking they're just going to keep getting away with this? Like, I'm curious if they're at all threatened by what's happening with humanity and star seeds, or if they just kind of think, no, we're going to still be able to keep doing what we're doing.
I think it's both. I ask that myself um, as well, and I've asked that myself over the last couple of months. Like, are they not aware that it's over? And I think on an unconscious level, I think they are aware. But I do know that they don't want to leave. I do know that it's like an abused woman uh, in an abusive relationship. She knows she needs to leave, but yet tomorrow happens and tomorrow happens and tomorrow happens. And and I've been in that situation myself a few times, and she kind of um, is in denial of the true situation. So I would say they are aware that the game is over, but in denial of what's really going on. And they don't want to leave. There is a lot of them that have left, but there's I would say there's a core group that is stronger is the wrong word, but there's a core group that is more, what is the word, arrogant, that is more self-sustaining, that is more like they've dug their heels in and they refuse to leave. And I'm thinking of Hillary Clinton as I'm talking because I know she's part of that crowd. And I've been watching interviews of her recently where she's in total denial of questions being asked of her, where she says, I do not know Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein. I have never known him. I've never met him. I've never had any communication with him. And yet there's physical evidence of pictures circulating the internet where it's undeniable, which he's pulling on his tie. Um, so they're very resilient. They're not stupid creatures or beings. I don't want to use the word beings because they're so satanic. Negative creatures. Um, so I would say it's a combination of both. They know the game's up, but it's but they don't. But they're in denial. They're in denial. Um, and they don't want to. Like they've been doing this for so long. It's become they never thought it would end. But there was also a contract that was drawn up at the downfall of Atlantis by positive and negative alien beings. And I think the Pleiadians were part of that contract, where, in fact, I know they were. They've said that to me before, where the reptilians were allowed, they were given a contract where they were a physical contract, a signed paper where they were allowed to have ownership of the planet for so long. And that contract has now come to an end. But the reptilian being, I don't want to use the word beings. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. The negative ET energies, they have not, they know the contract's up. Um, but they're not wanting to end their rule, their governance, their ownership of us as human beings or hybrids or the planet. I want to add that I've been shown that because it's connected. Trump is also what I've been shown about Trump is that he is a good guy. Um, that he's working with the Pleiadians, that he is very directly working with the Pleiadians, even more than I am, in a very physical way, where they show up and very physically for him. Um, and he's a being. A, let's call him a light being or a light part of the positive white hats. And I still believe that, even with what's being put out there into the media about Trump, I still believe he's a good guy, and I could be wrong, but that's an opinion, that is a belief, but I've also channeled it. But there's part of me that is very much observing what's going on with certain wars and that he has put into place recently. We don't know what lays beneath. We don't know what's really going on with that. The Pleiadians, they have said recently, the Pleiadians have said that the truth will come out in the next 3, 4, 5 months about what is really going on now. So I'm very much taking kind of a back seat with that and observing. Um, and of course, there's photos of Trump, videos of Trump, I believe, of being involved with Epstein, and there's a lot of reports and information on the internet saying that Trump is involved with the Epstein or was involved with Epstein and his Epstein Island and parties, or I don't want to use what was disguised as parties. Um, there's a song I've been listening to over the last couple of days, Lolita Express. If Jennifer, I don't know if you maybe Google that, Lolita Express. It's a piece of music that talks about pizza and uh, 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 um, some of the stuff that's gone on. Um, I don't know who wrote it or who sings it, um, but it's kind of horrendous. Um, and those are just some of the things that would have gone on at the parties. I don't know if I'm going to upload this to social media. Um, I I may, I may, um, and I may not. I don't know. Um, but the 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 missing. Let's talk about the missing children a little bit. Um, there's thousands, millions of children that go missing every year. It's it's an abnormal amount of thousands of children that go missing, not just in America, but all over the planet. It's an absurd amount. And it's not just children, it's adults, it's men, it's women. It's an absurd amount of people that go missing. I do not believe that that is due to evil human beings that want to harm these children or men or women. I do not believe there's an equal number of people, of murderers or kidnappers or rapists on this planet that are normal. I believe that is part of the satanic, the Illuminati, the royal families, the Rothschilds, the religions, the Catholic Church, which is hugely satanic. And I was raised as a Catholic. I believe that all of those missing children, men and women, have been involved in, captured by, kidnapped by the Illuminati or the Cabal or whatever you want to call them, the satanic cults. These satanic cults are not thousands of miles away. They're not thousands of miles away. They're beneath our feet. Mark Atwood talks about this. For those of you listening, if I do share this, and also for Jennifer, that Mark Atwood is Mark and then Atwood, A-T-T Wood, Atwood, is also lives in Ireland, not too far from me. Of course, Ireland's very small, so nowhere is very far. But he talks quite a bit about his vicinity and what's really going on. And he has explained that these cults are, they're not in different countries. They're very local. They're down the road. They're um, a couple of miles away. And of course, there'll be more of them in the bigger cities, but even in rural places. I remember being in Gibraltar once, and I remember Gibraltar is a very small, tiny, tiny place. And I was living there for a couple of years. And I remember I was out walking one evening. I think I was on my way home from work. I used to work in a nightclub. And there was this church in the town. And it was midnight. I must have been on my way home from work. I remember it was midnight and the church bell was ringing. And it seemed very unusual to me at the time because there was no one around. And yet I could clearly hear the church bell chiming away. And I kind of hurried home. Um, but that, well, being aware of what I am today, I was not aware at the time when I was walking home and listening to the church bell. I was not aware of any of this. But now, in hindsight, with what I know, I would say that there was very dark practices going on in Gibraltar at the time. I'm going to pause there, Jennifer. I don't know if you have any more questions. I hope so.
I'm not sure if I can ask this question. It's more of an opinion on something, but I'll ask it. Um, so there was this incident once, and I was 18, 19, and I was on a rural road trip in very small places, and we're young, and we were up middle of the night. It was 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and this is very bold because it was right outside of this little, if we even want to call it a town or a village, and all of a sudden these people started walking out of this field in a uniform way. It was the creepiest thing I ever saw. And I mean, it kind of made you kind of think of what you think of like white supremacist groups, but that isn't what it was. And all I remember is this feeling of sheer terror. Like, we don't want these people to see us and we need to get out of here. And I always wondered if it was something like this going, it was just oh, I just get the creeps even thinking about it. And I've always wondered what that was. And if I would have been alone, I would have questioned if I even saw it. But there was a group of us, and it was they had the same outfit, kind of robes on, and they all just started walking out of this field, kind of in the middle of nowhere, but right on the edge of like a major highway. But it was dead. It was rural. It was just made me always feel like something like this. I just don't know if there's anything.
Absolutely. I would say, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I always trust your instinct, Jennifer. If that, I can feel that coldness that you're talking about come over your body, um, almost like sheer terror, but you can't put it into words, and you've got no proof. You've no proof, but the proof is in the feeling. When something makes you feel like that, absolutely, it's not good. Whatever they were doing, um, and of course, these types of groups cannot go and display themselves in large areas like that or in cities because there's a saying in Ireland, we will cop on, cop on, um, or we will become very quickly aware of what's going on. So there is a lot of stuff that happens in rural small places where I don't know what that film is called now, but it is with Tom Cruise and what is her name? Um, his wife that he married in real life, Nicole Kidman. That is a very Nicole Kidman's family is a very good example of one of these reptilian families. So there is a movie. I cannot remember what it's called, but I went to watch it years ago, and that is a very good example of a house in the middle of nowhere, um, where some of these practices take place. It's quite a dark movie to watch. You were very lucky. You were very lucky that you got out of that alive. Um, I wanted to ask, what color outfits were they wearing? And how many of them were there?
So the reason why my kind of first thought, but I knew it wasn't right, is that they might be white supremacists because they were in white, but it wasn't like the hood, the pointy hood or anything. And I didn't feel like they were white supremacists, but they were white, and we only just started. They were coming out right at the corner of the field in a row. Like there was a row of them. By the time we got out of there, there was only like up to 10 coming out, and they were just kind of coming out all going their separate ways, and they didn't really
And were they in a row vertically or horizontally? Were they next to each other or in front and behind?
behind.
Okay, like a ceremony.
Yes, it was. That's what it felt. It felt like a procession. It was just, oh, I just get the chills thinking about it. And I don't think it would matter if I was green, white, orange, or whatever. You'd be scared of these people. Yeah.
And how many were there? Did you say 10?
I feel like we just saw the beginning of them. Like they just kept coming out like ants. And I think by the time I saw the 10th person, we were like, we need to get out of here. This is terrifying. And we never ever talked about it again. We just got out of there and went to bed and carried on with our lives.
And what state was that?
That was in southern Manitoba, Canada. So it'd be fairly close to the American border. Very rural, kind of like cornfield idea, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And did you see any cars or
No, that's the thing. It was there weren't any cars, and we weren't like we were on maybe the edge of this village, but they weren't near it. And then none of them headed that way. They all just kind of were dispersing into like the unknown. It was just really creepy. There were no vehicles. They would have had to go on foot to wherever they came from.
you were very lucky, Jennifer, very lucky.
Mm.
There was a friend of mine um, who, and I'll just go through it very quickly. But as a child, I used to have these reoccurring memories and dreams where I was with my sister and my family in Native America. I was one of those children that was really awake and aware and remembered many of my past lives. Um, and I always used to remember one particular lifetime where I was in Native America and I had this sister. And um, and then I met her in real life, and she became a very good friend of mine, very good, very close friend. Um, and she used to tell me about this memory she had of Native America, where she'd be playing in the garden and she'd be singing and dancing, and she had a teepee and she was drumming and all, really Native American influence work with her, and she remembered it. And um, I never told her about my memory because I didn't feel that she was in a place where she would have accepted it. Although she accepted her own memories, if I had then gone on to tell her about my memory, it would have been too much for her. It would have been too weird, too strange, too out there. But anyway, um, um, I think it was about maybe a year after that, after she told me that she also told me that um, she her friends were, or she grew up in a cult. Her mum was involved in a cult where they would um, sacrifice people. And at the time, I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know what to make of it. She was never involved in any of that, but she was very much on kind of, she was in it, but she wasn't doing anything bad. Um, but I think she was present at some things, but I never really knew what to make of it at the time. Now, looking back, it makes a lot of sense. Um, and I'm no longer friends with her just because we went our separate ways. But that just came to mind when you were, talking. So these cults, like they're not thousands of miles away, distance from us. They're down the road. Look, they're like you were saying, in places that are remote, that are often there's no one around. Um, they're not going to be in. They're not going to be displaying what they're doing in cities. I'm going to pause there for a second. Okay, so welcome back, guys. Again, I'm saying that I'm unsure whether I'm going to put this out on release it on social media or not. But Jennifer, do you have any more questions? It can be anything. It doesn't have to be related to Jeffrey Epstein. Although, you know, when I talk about all systems on Earth being run by negative ET energy, or whenever I channel that, that is something that took me 4 years to process. And sometimes I channel or I talk to people about that, about the negative reptilian and how every system on Earth is run by negative ET energy. And I just see it go over their head. And I really understand that. I really understand it because it took me 4 years to really physically process that and understand that I was living in a false reality. I was living, it meant that I could no longer trust my doctor, my lawyer, my solicitor, my MP, my people at the within the education system. It was a real game changer for me because and I always see it very clearly in my mind's eye. At the top of every system is negative ET energy, which is like when it's okay to say that, but to really understand it, to really process it is something else. It's not something that's oh, okay. So my president of I don't what country can we use? Or let's say the royal family. The royal family are reptilians. That can take years to process. It's not an instant kind of, oh, okay, I accept that. And I remember hearing that myself. I remember I was living on Holy Island in Scotland, and which was a Buddhist island. And I'll say this quickly because I don't want to veer off subject too much, although it is kind of related. But I remember living there, and they were very spiritual people, really beautiful souls. And one of them had the belief that the royal family were reptilian at the time. And when I heard this, I kind of found it funny, kind of. And I remember laughing at it out loud. But there was a part of me that was like, oh my God, she's right. But it was kind of unconscious because consciously I just kind of laughed it off and thought, oh, she's a bit crazy, but she wasn't at all. So and that was years before. That was years before. That was probably about at least 5 to 9 years before the Pleiadians shared with me that every system on Earth is run by negative ET energies. So, yeah, it took a long time for me to kind of process that and really, it's a game changer. Like when you really understand that these people are not even human, not even human. You can't be human to do the stuff that they do. Um, and there will be some very dark stuff that comes out. Um, any more questions, Jennifer? I'm so keen. I'm so like this is perfect. It's perfect, and I'm so glad you're here. And thank you so much. And ask away. Ask anything.
I do have a question, but I do want to say I understand what you mean. There was a point in time people talked about this and I thought they were nuts. And eventually I realized nothing is crazy. Everything is possible. And now that I have a child, it sends me in a tailspin of should I be homeschooling? Should I trust getting vaccinated? It just sends you in this whole tailspin of you don't trust anyone. and you're just like, oh my God. So it does totally rocks your entire world and how you view everything. And it's like, I don't know what to do. But my question is, so say,
Let me just slow you down a little bit, because please don't get your child vaccinated. Please don't get your child vaccinated. There are horrendous things, and this goes for everyone listening. There are horrendous things in the vaccines. Um, and please homeschool your children. Uh, the school system is part of that negative agenda, and it was set up by one of the Rothschilds family. I don't know I forget his first name. Um, but he set up the school education system in order to not just entrap souls, but to uh, keep the children kind of from developing their consciousness. The school system is a very good system that has been set up by the Rothschilds to control, manipulate, educate is the wrong word, to keep them kind of in prisons. I would homeschool if I was you. It's interesting because there's a couple of projects I want to do with children's books, where I want to create children's books. And I woke up today full of creativity, and I already have the whole, like, a series of books that I want to create. Just from waking up this morning, I often get very creative, either when I wake up or at night. So anyway, yeah, please don't vaccinate your children. Please don't. Educate is the wrong word, but please don't, because children, and they've said this before in channelings often. The school system is one of the biggest ways that the negative agenda will grab hold of your children from a very young age and play with them. And the school system is also very satanic. There is a lot of stuff going on with teachers, with the whole people that are working in the school systems. And also, it's not a place to get educated. That's not why it was set up. It was set in order to get children from a young age and stunt their consciousness, stunts their growth, to kind of cap them, to to dumb them down. And of course, a lot of the schools used to vaccinate children. I know I have a scar on one of my arms from where I was vaccinated. And then I did actually get very ill, very ill, to the point I even thought I wasn't going to make it. And of course, so there's the vaccines that a lot of us had in the 80s. There's also reports now of pictures. We used to get our pictures taken as a school thing, which every school had. There's now rumors and reports of those being very dark, because why would you go into a school and take pictures of kids? So there's rumors of that on the internet, of being very dark practices. And the other thing that the Pleiadians have said to me over and over again is, educate your children. They are not taught. I think this is in my book, The Pleiadian Child by Carol Ann Noonan, which is my birth name, my biological name. So check that out. It's called The Pleiadian Child. It's available on Amazon. But they were talking about how children are not educated on real history, real science, astrology, food, health, nutrition, bodies, their own DNA, their own consciousness. That, like, there's a whole spectrum of things, that many hundreds of subjects where children are not taught any of the truth that we are now just discovering about Egypt, about history, about science, about Tartaria, about medicine, about our bodies, about who we are, why we're here, about the ascension process, about astrology, about history, about math, about science, about food. The list is endless. So please don't. And this is for everyone. If I do release this out, don't put your children into the school system. There's nothing more evil than the school system.
Thank you for that. Well, and that's kind of just confirmed what I've said no to all vaccines. And then it's amazing how the doctors turn on you then. And then we do want to homeschool. So it's one of those things I guess we just have to just keep with it and put up with all of them. But
Yeah, that is a difficult one because it goes against the narrative. It goes against what society says you should be doing, which is design, but by design. They didn't just design the school system. The Rothschilds didn't just design the school system, but they also created a society where if you want to do something else than put your child into school, it's very frowned upon. Even sometimes I've heard parents get into legal situations because they don't want to send their children to the school system because they know that it's a negative agenda. So um, I would, if I was you, I would send a lot of um, love and light to those entities, and I would also cloak yourself, which is kind of a spiritual technique where you can cloak your child and you and your family and your husband and your loved ones um, with a conscious thoughts create. So there are techniques that you can use to cloak yourself, to make yourself invisible to those that would normally want to take your child and put them into a school system. Not just for that reason, but many other reasons. So that's kind of going into it's not psychic woo-woo stuff. Many of these practices and techniques rather have been used by um, Russian spies, by CIA spies. They're techniques that are taught into agents, taught to agents like Epstein. Do you want to add anything to that, Jennifer?
well, actually, what I was curious about is say the reptilians took over, say, the royal bloodlines around the 14th century. At some point, did they start, I'm assuming, reproducing with humans, or have they always stayed? Because if they've reproduced with humans over hundreds of years, could there be people then who have part reptilian blood that have no idea? Like, is that a thing?
Yes, I would say that is a thing, but they have been very selective publicly. Well, when I say publicly, I mean, I think a lot of them are having affairs and secret children behind the scenes. I know Prince Charles being a prime example, who I have no doubt is reptilian. And Diana, this is a great example because even Lady Diana reported to people around her that she was seeing things that and saying that the royal family were reptilian. This is very public. Lady Diana spoke about the royal family being reptilians. And if they'd known she was there, they would have ended her then and there. So she was seeing things that they didn't know she was there. I don't know how that's possible, but I do know that she died very suddenly in a car accident. There's still question whether she actually died in the car accident or whether she's still alive. And I don't know the answer to that. I also don't know the answer about Michael Jackson, which is very connected to Epstein as well. Um, or rather, he was portrayed as being a very bad person and doing things to children that I don't believe he ever did. I believe he was um, one of the good guys and trying to expose people like Epstein and others for doing reptilian satanic things to children and women and men. And I believe he was, I don't know if he is dead or alive. Um, if he's dead, they obviously killed him off. That was yeah. Um, but I'm sorry, I'm kind of veering off a little bit off the subject. But what was your question again, Jennifer? Because there's things I need to say as well.
No, that's okay. I was just curious if they were reproducing with humans and if there happens to be people out
Yes.
there that actually have such a small percentage that they don't even know they're part reptilian, or if they all know that they, like, if you have it in you, you know it, or if there's people who actually have no idea walking around.
I think there are people that are walking around that are totally unaware that they have reptilian DNA. In the same way that we as starseeds were once walking around totally unaware that our DNA as starseeds is different. I also believe that they do the royal family, the likes of the royal family, are very careful, very selective with their bloodlines. They're called blue bloods for a reason. Um, and they're very selective. I believe they chose Diana because of her bloodline. However, I feel that she was at a point in her family where her DNA, her her bloodline going back in her ancestry probably definitely would have been reptilian, but I feel that it was so diluted by the time it got to her that she was kind of most definitely a star seed, most in a similar way to Michael Jackson, was definitely here to change humanity, was kind of put into the family, into her family as a star seed, as almost kind of taken from the stars and brought into a family that was originally very reptilian. And I believe that she was chosen for that reason because of her bloodline. And things didn't work out too well for the royal family, for the negative reptilian beings called the royal family. Things didn't work out too well for them given who Diana was on a higher level. I believe she was extremely good. I believe she was similar to Jesus in a sense. And also, I believe Michael Jackson was similar to Jesus in a sense, similar in an energy way where they were here to be game changers for humanity on a grand scheme of things and to be very public figures and to show us how dark things are, how dark things were within the grand scheme of things. Um, and they actually were very good friends behind the scenes. Um, and I think Prince Charles was very aware of that. And I feel that it's no accident that I think there's a very strong connection and behind the scenes information that will probably come out in the future to do with Michael Jackson and his strong friendship, his strong bond with Princess Diana, where they were deeply um, friends and working together to bring down the negative ET beings, the reptilian beings that are running the royal family or were running the royal family, because I don't know if they've been um, swapped out yet by the good guys or the white hats. But I know that that whole royal family lineage is crumbling, is ceasing to exist. And I know that in my lifetime, and the Pleiadians channeled this recently, I know in my lifetime that I will see the royal family ceasing to exist because of the atrocities that are made public of what they have done to children and what they have done to human beings, whether they are male or female. The royal family is reptilian, they are satanic, and they have done horrendous things. But going back to your question, the royal family is very selective with its bloodline because to, they wanted to continue the ownership of the earth, which is a bigger picture. Oh, any more questions? I hope so.
Oh, it's hard to think about, isn't it? So
It
I mean,
is. It is very hard to like. I really get it. Like you can't say stuff like this, and most people don't want to hear that. It's everything I've said tonight is takes people and took me a process of 4 years. It's not stuff that you say and people are like, oh, okay, thanks.
in terms of Epstein and the
Yes,
royal family, do you think Charles is just kind of letting Prince Andrew take the fall and try to distance himself as if he has nothing to do with the whole thing?
I think yes. I think publicly he's tried to do that publicly. He wants to give the persona of being royalty, which originally the royal family, before the negative reptilians took over the royal family, they were, I would go so far as to say they were the positive, loving ET energies, were the royalty. I would say that. And then the negative ET energies took over. So, yes, I would say that Charles is heavily involved. All of the royal family are satanic reptilian beings that are, including the church, the Catholic Church, and beneath the Vatican, there's tunnels going in every direction, more than one. Um, I see that like a circle. So in the Vatican, I see like a circle of a building or a structure or even an energy. And then beneath the Vatican, I see underground, I see tunnels going in every direction, veering off in every direction. So the yes, I would say that um, Charles, Andrew, all of the royal family were involved in are involved in or the satanic because it's in their blood, it's in their nature, it's who they are, it's what they do. It's their nature to do that. Um, and they've been doing it since day one, since they got landed, since they invaded our planet. That's what they've been doing. Um, and I think it was Peru, where there were sacrifices way back in history, and I think that was part of that system. Um, and um, yeah, I think publicly they want to give the perception that um, Epstein is over there and nothing to do with us. But I think too many people, and including and also Hillary Clinton is also publicly doing that, was saying that had no connection or communication, didn't know Jeffrey Epstein, but she did, and there's evidence of that. So I think with the royal family, with Charles and Andrew, I think that. they're trying to give the perception, the public, the perception that they are completely innocent and know nothing. I Know Nothing, which is a funny thing from Faulty Towers, a British comedy where there was a Spanish waiter who said, "I know nothing" in a Spanish accent. But also coming to that leads me to one of the sons that moved to Canada. I can never remember his name. It's the one with red hair that moved to Canada. I think with him and his brother, Harry, was it Harry and Edward? Him and his brother, their blood is very interesting because they have a combination of Diana's blood and Prince Charles's blood. And I think that there is more good in, I think it's Harry, the one that moved to Canada. I think he became aware of what was going on. And it's very interesting. I think he became very aware of what was going on. And I think his blood, his DNA is more positive. He's more goodness in him than he does badness. Um, he's more light DNA than dark DNA. So I think he wanted out. I think that was part of him moving to Canada. I think that he was caught in a very bad situation and didn't know what to do, tried to distance himself from the royal family. Also, very importantly, there are files on Lady Diana that will not be allowed, that are not allowed to be released until the year 2086. So whatever is in those files, they are not allowed to be released until the 2086 year. I think there, I think within those files, there is a releasement of exactly what was going on with the royal family, um, or is still going on with the royal family. There's a question mark. Is that stuff still happening? I would say yes, it is, because I don't think they can really be in existence without consuming certain things. Um, yeah. Any more questions, Jennifer?
I'm not sure. I'm still absorbing everything. And I mean, I wonder then, you think, or have you been told, say, I mean, lots of us do believe Epstein is still alive, and that's what we're shown and everything. Do you think it's gonna ever come to light for us regular people? Like, do you think he'll ever be caught, is what I'm wondering. Like, where the rest of us, especially people who don't buy into any of this, are like, oh wait, he's actually alive. Like, I wonder, or is he gonna hide really well for the rest of his existence?
I don't know the answer to that. I I don't know. I know there have been reports of him or images or videos of him, what looks like him, being, I think it's in Iran or Iraq or one of the Eastern countries. Um, so I think those are very interesting. I think those really do look like him. Um, and maybe that is a white hat movement where they're trying to release that he's still alive and well. Um, and perhaps that is a double that the white hats have come up with in order to try and make people aware that he's still alive. I do believe he's still alive. I don't know if he's ever gonna resurface publicly. I doubt it. I doubt it. I think it would be too shocking for people to fathom. I think it would probably cause a shock to their systems. In like energy, like our systems can get shocked to the point of being out of balance, to the point of affecting us on a very physical level. Like when we go through a shock or a trauma, it affects us. It affects our central nervous system, which can cause a lot of health problems when our central nervous system is out of alignment. Um, so I don't know. I don't know.
It's just interesting to think about.
It is. It is. I mean, I do believe fully that he is still alive. There's no way he killed himself. I mean, there's no way he killed himself. He was such a demonic, is such a demonic being. Why would he? He would not have felt guilt. He would not have felt compassion. He would not have felt any of the more humane emotions and frequencies towards his victims. He would not have felt any of that. So why would he have killed himself? I believe that someone died, someone was buried, but it wasn't Epstein. It wasn't Epstein. You don't get to be in that position with that negative reptilian bloodline, with that lack of humanity, lack of compassion, lack of anything, and suddenly kill yourself because of your crimes against humanity. That doesn't happen. That does not happen. I believe that his phone call that he made a couple of days before was to um, fake his death, was for someone to replace him and fake his death. And perhaps the person that died was a clone and not even a human being. I don't know. Um, yeah.
Despite the arrogance, they should be, you'd think that he are smart enough to have a plan for, okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. If a time comes, things are revealed and I'm arrested. Like it just doesn't make sense that he would just so easily die in a cell. Like they're smart enough that I think them and the powers that be with them would have plans.
That is something of a concern of mine, is that kind of worded that back to front. So one of my concerns about all of everything I've spoken tonight is that we have really underestimated them. We have really underestimated the reptilians, the negative agenda, the cabal, the Illuminati, on a very serious level, where it has been very evident that it's been very detrimental to us. And a prime example of that is 2019 or 2020, when vaccines were created very suddenly for a pandemic. We've really underestimated how dark and negative they are, and how dark and negative their agenda is, and the things that they are doing, and their whole way of life. We have really underestimated the negative agenda, who have been, through the use of their own technology in a negative way, have been ahead of us for millennia. And we are now waking up to them and their agenda and who they are and what they're all about. And that is part of the ascension process, which, by the way, takes years to unravel and to expand our own individual consciousness. I haven't suddenly waken up one day and had all this information given to me. This has been taken the process since I was a child. And I want to add as well that I was also born awake, aware, and conscious, and but kind of back to front. I was born with many spiritual gifts and very blessed in many ways. And yet were very lot of pros and cons to that because I wasn't gifted in being abundant as a child. I was often half starved and I we didn't have, or at least I didn't have enough food, and I was very, very skinny, very, and I got ill because of it. And my mum took me to the doctor, and he looked at her and um said, "You need to feed her." Like he really looked her in the eye and said, "You need to feed her." Um, and I don't believe that we were poor to the point she couldn't afford to feed me. I believe that was due to her addiction and her own kind of um, instability to raise children. But going back to my point, um, I was kept out of the school system by the Pleiadians, which now looking back, it was, I was very gifted in that way. I have, there are other areas in my life I have not been gifted at all. Um, Money and abundance and was very difficult in my very early years. But in with my spiritual gifts and my awareness, I've been very gifted. So I don't want people to think that um, that the sun is shining out my ass because it's not. But in my gifts, I'm very gifted in those areas, in those particular areas. Other areas, I'm not so gifted at all. Um, but does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, it does. It's a lot. So, yeah.
Are you cooked?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. My,
Yeah.
my my shamanic teacher always used to say that to us. I think they're cooked, which kind of means enough already. I can't process anymore.
My eyes are probably glazed over a little bit. Yeah. It's hard.
It can take time it can take years to process some of this stuff because it's huge. Like it's huge. I mean, royal family is reptilian. What? Satanic bloodlines? What? Religion and the Vatican being reptilian, satanic, evil demons. What? It takes time to process.
Do you
And the
think
vast, sorry, go
sorry.
on.
I'm just curious, do you think anyone say like the Clintons will actually even really be punished for this? Like do you
I do. I do. Whoever's playing the role of Hillary Clinton at the moment is not the original Hillary Clinton. I fully believe that have been several Hillary Clintons and are, whether they are real human beings of some type, playing her role, or whether they are clones or a combination of both. Um, I saw a video of Hillary where it's very widespread on the internet, where she's getting into a car or she's walking back to her car, and the clone, I believe it was a clone, malfunctions, and her body is heavily shaking and she can't walk. And um she gets held on each side, on each arm by the people around her. Um and she gets put into a car because she physically is unable to do that herself. And I think that was the clone malfunctioning. And I watched and more than that, I watched a funny video where the way she was put into the car, I watched a comedy video where someone made a video of she was put into the car and then the door was closed, and it was kind of like she was shoved into the car in a very funny way, where she would have ended up face down, just laying on the car seats in the back of the car. She was kind of just shoved in there quickly to so that the cameras wouldn't record, and it wouldn't be seen on public media. But yes, I think that the likes of Hillary Clinton, the likes of Obama, the likes of um, I think Trump is an exception. I think he is an exceptional soul with an exceptional mission, and I do believe he's still uh, one of us good guys. Yeah, and so Hillary Clinton and all of those kind of elite people that are reptilian. I do believe they have clones, they have doubles, they have um, all of that going on, and not just one clone, but they probably have several clones. Um, and most people in Hollywood, I think, do. Even the good people in Hollywood, if there's any of them, the performers, the musicians, the actors, if there's any that are good, I think even the good ones have clones, because I don't think you can keep up that type of um, energy or work that would be needed to on a physical level. I think that you would need to have a double. Um, yeah, in order to maintain the kind of the workload. So is that okay, Jennifer?
Yeah, yeah, you've given tons of information. That was really good.
That is great. That's what I wanted to do. But just kind of process, give yourself a break over the next couple of days, because um, we've shared a lot of information this evening.
Mhm.
So maybe just press the pause button for a while and just process and absorb. And
Sounds good.
if you need to,
But right now, it feels like I could have a nap.
yeah, yep. And I do know as well that the Pleiadians have been working on you. You, Jennifer, have been working on you um, since we've been talking. And I don't know that they've been doing that for everyone that might listen in the future if I share it. I don't know they've been doing that, but they've been working on you um, to balance your energies. You will end up um, being able, thank you, you will end up being able to channel light language if you're not doing it already.
That makes sense. Well, I'll take all the energy balancing I can get.
Yeah. Okay, darling. Well, I think I'm going to call it an evening. I need to go and have some nice food. So I shall see you soon. Hopefully on Saturday. Oh, tomorrow. Yes.
Great, you're next. Yeah. I'll have to check all the links for that. They're all somewhere in my email.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you can have a look on my website,
Cool.
love, and then go to the Cosmic Starseed Academy page. And if you scroll down, all the links are on there.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great evening.
Thanks, Jennifer. And you.
Take care.
Bye.